Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We have a good one for you as always on the show. We're talking about the death cult. It's not just conservatives, folks. Here are the people that we will be telling you that want you to go back to work. I'm going to emphasize this point. We will round it up for you. Also, case for the truth, really, of Trump not caring whether or not you die. Like, there has been some really questionable decisions made by the White House in the wake of this crisis, and some questionable decisions made by the response. We'll be talking about that as well. And even after repeatedly downplaying the threat, Trump is now saying keeping the U.S. to 100,000 coronavirus deaths would be a good job. So, not a very optimistic statement there for the president. Also, a eye-catching new Politico article saying that AOC is trying to really now break with Bernie Sanders on how to lead the left. Is it something to freak out about? I will tell you. Also today, the case for emptying the jails, and we'll have some fun with the best coronavirus fails from celebrities. And there has been a good amount, and there's a lot of funny stuff here as well. Yeah, but we start with this. So today, one of the most really grotesque things about the current political moment is how blatantly subservient Donald Trump is to the whims of the market and what happens when, and just keeping that line looking good. Like, that is the funniest. He has just been so focused in terms of keeping the way the line is and not really focusing that much about anything else, let alone the relief efforts that we need. Yeah, if Trump ever had any genuine concern for public health, it seems to have gone out the window almost as soon as he realized the disastrous effects the coronavirus would have on the economy. So Trump he began talking about putting people back to work and opening the U.S. back up by Easter. Then conservative commentator Stuart Varney implied that the market was welcoming the offering of flesh and blood from Trump, like the recurring dumbasses of the far right, as well as Wall Street fundamentalists like Lloyd Blankfein and the Americans for Prosperity pro-Coke group were willing to make. So that's what really the idea that we saw pushed up. Thankfully, though, I do get the sense that at least since our last episode when we talked about this, and people kept bringing this up, I believe this was last week, our Monday episode, we were talking about this, really the scary fact of the matter is that people are trying to push Americans back to work way, way, way too soon. It seems like that idea has even been disabused from Trump's mind, as he now is trying a new tack, trying to shift the blame on the blue states that have had the biggest outbreaks. You see people like Ron DeSantis now trying to quarantine people coming in from New York City and in from, I believe, Texas, doing the same thing. And it shows you it's like, it's not really, so when the Florida just breaks out into a massive spike of coronavirus, which, I mean, seems like it's going to happen at this point with the way they're handling it. They're still letting people out on the beaches. They're still doing all these crazy, crazy things that have long since been outlawed in states with, like, sensible governors. Like, they're still doing this crazy stuff, and now what they can say is, oh, the blue state tourists are coming in, and it's not anything that, it's not anything you could really help. Like, that is the crazy, crazy tack they're taking. There's been really actually a pretty interesting clip that opened up, or that was actually came out, I think, 2 weeks ago, of this board meeting that just blew up in Lake Worth, Florida, and just the idea of not closing the beaches. I don't know if they closed the beaches in that particular area at that time, but yeah, it's a city in Florida here, and the craziness in the City Hall meeting. This is one that's 64 miles north of Miami. So, and it was, I know someone who was doing, yeah, I'm going to see we can find a video of that, I'm pretty sure, and play that for you. This is about the emergency powers showdown, and remember the board of the mayor kind of just really, got a little bit chaotic, to say the least. So here's the clip of how that played out. And you really get the sense there's been debates like this playing out all across the country. So if you take a look at this here.
Can we do better? There's always things that pop up that we can do better on, and I call the question.
I'm sorry, that's not how this works. We each have an opportunity to speak 5 minutes.
I thought we did.
Yeah. The question's been
I'm
called.
sorry. No, I'm sorry.
We've been
City
And
Attorney.
that's not how calling the question works. You need a second, and you need to vote on
Then
it.
I have a second for calling
So
the
are you
question.
telling me that you're going to keep me from talking right now?
You've talked all evening.
Look here. You're calling me disrespectful because I've interrupted people, but this gentleman has turned off people's lights in the middle of a global health pandemic. That's what that gentleman did.
Point
Point of order.
And you think I'm disrespectful for interrupting?
Point of order.
This gentleman has
Point
had the
of
ability to do
order.
any number of things.
Point
We could have
of order.
banned large gatherings. We could have closed the beach. We could have put a moratorium on
I recessed the
utility
meeting.
shutoffs.
I recessed the
Also not within your power, and the
recessed the
attorney has
meeting.
held that that's true.
I recessed the meeting.
You came up with new rules at the beginning of the meeting, and then you didn't even want to follow the rules that you came up with.
So just to add in a little bit of context here, the mayor being like, "Oh, I recessed the meeting," that is the mayor who's saying that, and she's a Republican mayor, more kind of a let's keep everything exactly the way it is. And there's some commissioners on her side, but the one guy, Commissioner Hardy, is like, "What are we doing here? Like, we could have done so much more," and it is absolutely massive to see that this is happening here. And it's very, very disturbing. So it's like, this is some of the stuff that has been playing out, and this is what they're going to try and blame. Like, this kind of just absolute impotence is probably what they're going to try and blame on, like, blue states coming up pretty soon. That seems to be the next line of attack, being like, if you're from New York, we don't want you here. Like, Rhode Island now isn't considering stopping people and pulling them over if they see they have a New York license plate. And New York's almost kind of become the pariah at this point. So, like, we are living in the zone right now if you're in New York. So if my fellow New Yorkers out there can hopefully push through some of this coronavirus chaos going on. On Friday, North Carolina Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, lagging behind other Democratic colleagues in the state, finally issued a stay-at-home order for the entire state, which goes into effect Monday night. Hospitals and public health officials have been imploring Cooper to do this for days, but the state Chamber of Commerce, there you have it, didn't agree. In a letter published on March 21st, the state chamber called the shelter-in-place orders a drastic step, only one which can only be a last resort. While times of crisis are by nature uncertain, North Carolina must do what it does best: remain calm with a smart, different approach, a true North Carolina approach, whatever that means, says the chamber president Gary Salmedo. So this is, again, another example of sacrificing people's lives for profits, or vice versa. Like, that's literally what's come down to, all to feed the whatever it is you want to call it, of capitalism, the gaping maw I've heard it referred to as of capitalism. Just get the markets going, get the wheels turning, get the hum of the engine going. It may have to slow down a little bit, but you have to keep that hum going as the crisis goes on. So given what we know about the coronavirus, while understanding there's a lot more to learn, it appears to be infecting working poor and working class communities, at least in New York, at a higher rate than in more well-off communities. So people that pretty much that have to go to work, people that live in those essential or work in those essential businesses like grocery stores, like restaurants, like places where you have to interact with people, all these public health workers, most likely live in poor communities, like sanitation workers, all these people that you see out there, postmen, and women out there delivering these packages in this time. Like, that's what you see as someone who's like that's the most important job they have, and they're most likely going to be coming to you from these working class communities. It's the most important thing there. So COVID-19 itself doesn't discriminate, as we've been told, but once it comes to contact with our more discriminatory healthcare system, that really hardly matters. It's easy and correct to say that the bullying Koch blank fine cell mind opposition is the logical endpoint of capitalism, given the choice between maintaining an economic structure that's produced lucrative profits and saving frontline workers and vulnerable patients. It's hardly a contest. Like, we know which one's going to win, and we're seeing it play out. We're seeing this nightmare scenario play out, and it seems very, very hard to think about a way that it could possibly stop in some short time. So, like, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen really very easily. It still takes a massive amount of gall, though, to describe an approach which prioritizes economic prosperity over the choice of human life, as everyone else should, as the careful, responsible choice. Like, this is like they're trying to put out the approach here, at least in North Carolina, that we're just doing the careful, the response that North Carolina does best. Like, what effect will this have coming in on the end. Like, I mean, what will this have? Like, we here in New York, we have a relatively good response, but we still have a governor who's out there coming and trying to cut Medicaid during during literally a global pandemic. Like, that's another side of it. Like, as much as you hear these like really uncomfortable liberal sex fantasies about Andrew Cuomo, it's not all what it's cracked up to be. Like, there are still some major problems that we see with the Governor Andrew Cuomo here. So it's like you can't always get exactly what you want. So as we've seen so many times over the past few years, Trump might be more transparent about his parties than the less publicly vulgar or less gauche billionaires, those who aspire to be them, but that does not mean their parties are different. Like, they work in coherence. So it's very, very important to, I think, keep that in mind. Yeah, so it's the Chamber of Commerce. You got to keep an eye out for those people, I think, at this point in time, as they try to sacrifice your life, really, is what I think is what they're trying to do here, in exchange for the market. All right, so here's another good one, more about Trump in and of itself. On Friday morning, Fox News published an opinion piece from the presidential daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. Laura Trump, this is the president's son's wife, who may or may not be being paid by her father-in-law's re-election campaign, and insisted that every American can be confident that the president's top priority is to keep our families safe and healthy during this coronavirus pandemic. It's a nice sentiment. It's the sort of thing that you could hope could go without saying during a time of national catastrophe, but it's just blatantly and obviously not true. That is not this president's number one priority. I think if you really want to have a real opposition to what we're trying to do here and what Donald Trump is trying to do, I think you can start saying it. So, yeah, just hours before Fox published Lara Trump's essay, the president himself had actually called into his informal advisor Sean Hannity's TV show to proudly proclaim that, quote, "I don't believe that New York actually needs the tens of thousands of ventilators requested by Governor Andrew Cuomo." So here he is.
New York is a bigger deal, but it's going to go also. But I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators. You know, you go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have 2 ventilators, and now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators? So,
yeah, we don't need them. They're way bigger. Like, they're way bigger than what they're going to... Those greedy hospitals, that's what it is. The greedy hospitals are trying to hike up my government, make it look bad. The fake news hospitals, so that's really what he's saying. Literally, not only does the President of the United States simply not have a hunch, it's all this is, it's a hunch. Like, I'm looking at the situation here as noted epidemiologist, expert, Dr. Donald Trump, like, looking at the situation and be like, yeah, I'm going to go with it. New York doesn't need 30,000, 40,000, like, they don't need 2. Yeah, he's actively dragging his feet about when it comes to putting more ventilators into circulation, issuing the legally dubious Twitter orders to General Motors to invoke P, quote unquote, and in order to start large-scale manufacturing of devices after having balked at paying the $1.5 billion for them just days earlier, as we talked about on the last show. As usual, I don't know what invoke P means. This is the tweet though. It says, as usual with this General Motors, this for some reason is in quotes. I don't know why. Things never seem to work out. They said they were going to give us 40,000 much-needed ventilators very quickly. Now they're saying it's only going to be 6,000 in late April, and they want top dollar. Always a mess with Mary B., who I'm pretty sure is the CEO of General Motors. Invoke P is what he says. Invoke P, which that should be a meme if it's not already. I think Mary Barra, that's her name. Mary Barra is the CEO of General Motors. Keep in mind, Trump's proposed sticker shock comes at the cost of producing thousands of desperately needed ventilators. And then he's like, oh, it's too much money. It's too much. They're ripping us off with the ventilators, folks. It's not a good deal. This again. Look